when you're subtracting numbers, you can always change subtracting to adding the opposite. Like, what? What does that even mean? It means this. We all know what 5 minus 2 is. The kids in the elementary school are doing this type of math, right? 5 minus 2 is going to equal 3. That's easy. But I want to show you. Even if you changed it to adding the opposite, which is what 5 plus negative 2 is, well, if you think about it, if you have 5 positives and you have 2 negatives, and they zero out, a plus, adding and subtracting once equals 0, what are you left with? You're left with 3 positive. Which means, if you're not sure about a problem, you can always change subtracting to adding the opposite. They mean the same thing. Are you guys good in here? Can I move on? Alright, so, example 2. So now you have negative 6 minus 9. This would be like it's negative 6 degrees outside and it's dropping 9. It's getting colder by 9. So what would the temperature be? Negative 6, use the number line. You're starting at negative 6 and you're going 9 to the left, going 9 smaller. You'd end up with negative what? 15. That's correct. Now, let's say you're like, whoa, you're just thinking, I think I'm getting 3, negative 3, I'm not sure. How can you rewrite this as adding the opposite? Well, this is the same thing as negative 6 plus negative 9. So this would be the same thing. And the rules that you learned last week would work. If you're adding numbers and they have the same sign, they're both negative, you can keep the sign and add the numbers together to get negative 15 that way also. Good on this one? These notes are going to be a checkpoint. So there's a checkpoint called subtracting integer notes. This is going to be a checkpoint. So at the end, you can just take a picture, throw it in, and you'll be done with it. Hopefully this video comes out better than the last one. Good now? Alright. Try this one on your own. Raise your hand when you get an answer. What is 10 minus 50? Got an answer? Raise your hand. If you're at home, you can enter it into the chat. Yeah, not quite. Not quite. Not quite. Not quite. Alright. I'm going to put all the different answers I saw up there. I saw 60. I saw 40 I saw -40. Those were different answers that I saw, right? And only one of them is right. Think about it this way. What would 10 minus 10 be? What's that equal? 0, right? So if you had 10 minus, but you're changing it to 50, aren't you going past 0 into the negatives now? You're taking more away than the 10. And how far are you going to go? You're going to go 40 into the negative. So the answer here would be -40. Mr. Garcia, how would I write this as adding the opposite? Well, I'm glad you asked. You would do 10 plus -50. 10 plus -50 would also, the rules now are subtract and keep the number with a greater absolute value. Well, -50 is farther from 0, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And then when you subtract 50 and 10, you get 40. Would you want to draw counters for this? 50 counter? It would work. It'd take you a few minutes, though. I wouldn't want to do it. We good? Please write this down. These are rules. Sometimes you're going to be subtracting a negative number. Subtracting a negative, you're going to hear me say minus minus becomes plus plus. I'm going to say that probably 100 times. Whenever you see a minus minus next to each other, they have to be right next to each other. Just like Rakib and Mallory. Right next to each other and nothing between them. Minus minus becomes plus plus. I'm going to highlight that. That's super important. I want to see this in your notes, too. If you just submit your notes with a bunch of examples, I'm going to turn it yellow and send it back to you. So, hey, you don't have the rules in here. The next screen after this, it's going to be an attempt of me to try to explain to you, like, with an analogy. You don't have to write that down. Write this down, but not the next screen. Evelyn, you still have a question, or did you forget to take your hand up?
I don't have a question.
Okay. Nathan, what's minus minus become? Yep. Jalen, minus minus? Oh, yeah. Rakib, minus minus. That's right. Minus minus? Minus minus?
Plus minus?
Would you think anybody, if I said,
Plus plus?
do you think anyone would come off mute to actually say it? Anybody at home, minus minus?
Plus plus?
That's what I'm talking about, Evelyn. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Why does minus minus become plus plus? Well, I want you to imagine you're not writing this down. This is an analogy. You're in a hot air balloon. Here's a little fun fact, Mr. See, when I was your age, I always thought when I got engaged, I was going to go in a hot air balloon over Niagara Falls and propose. Like, that was my... It doesn't get much more romantic than that. Hashtag swag, right? Who would say no to that? That is not what happened. Knowing my luck, it wouldn't go well. Huh?
How did you propose?
It was after a Thanksgiving feast. But it wasn't like, but the family was there, it was like, it's convenient, it was nice.
With my parents, they didn't even like propose. We were like on vacation. I was like sitting there just like, hey, want to get married? And sure.
Was it in Vegas?
No, it wasn't in Vegas. We were on a vacation.
oh, it's vacation when you were 3, and you're like, might as well go to the court, do some paperwork today.
Yeah.
Let's make this official. We've already been Facebook official. Let's get the documentation,
My
right?
parents were in a car when it happened.
They were in a car.
Because my mom wanted to get gum out of that like thing that you open, and then there was like the ring inside of it.
Well, here's actually, if you want a little bit more details, I was thinking about doing it at Thanksgiving dinner, and I chickened. I got nervous, right? It just didn't feel right. So I was like, okay. I go, hey, her name's Courtney. I go, hey, Courtney, you want to go for a walk after? But my mom was there for Thanksgiving too. It was her family, but my mom was there because my mom knew I was going to propose, so she wanted to be in the area. And my wife is like concerned about my mom. I don't want to leave her by herself. Let's take your mom on a walk with us. I was like, no, she's good. And she's like, no, I insist. I was like, no. I was like, I just need some fresh air. You want to go in this garage? There was like a garage attached to the house. I was like, you want to go to the garage? And then I was like, you know what? And then I got down on my knee in the garage. And then she's like, oh my God, people can see. And then she grabbed me and ran out of the garage next to this tree in the dark. And then she said yes. But it was more funny. She was off guard. It doesn't sound. I don't know. I'll remember that. Anyway. So anyway, these negatives, these are sandbags. Sandbags make the hot air balloon go down, and these blue ones, they're balloons, helium balloons. They make them go up. All right, so we're throwing that on top of our thing. So let's say right now it's balanced at 3. And you take scissors and you cut your sandbags. You cut your sandbags and they fall off. Right? What's going to happen to this balloon after the sandbags go off? Go up higher. 2 more higher, right? Because think about what we just did. We subtracted by cutting -2. By subtracting -2, it went up, right? Added 2. So this would equal 5. This is the cutting of 2 sandbags. So this would equal 5. Is it everything where it needs to be?
Yeah.
All right.
Happy birthday.
Is it her birthday?
No.
You never know. You just gotta wait.
What are the chances of you being right?
Like 1 in 365.
Yes. Yeah, that's the probability. Not very likely. All right. Let's go back. All right, let's go back to your notes. Example 4, 5, and 6. If you have a pencil, try them on your own, and I will go over them. Remember, minus becomes plus. They have to be next to each other. There's one of them there that is not a minus becomes plus. Anybody think they know which one it is?
The 6.
No. This is minus becomes plus because they're next to each other. Even though that parentheses is between them, that don't count. You don't want a number between them.
First one?
The first one,
What?
this is 2 minus -3. This is minus becomes plus. Second one, because the 6 is between the signs. That is not going to be minus becomes plus. I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to go through this a little bit. So, if I was you guys and I was doing this on paper, I would just say plus, like right when I see it. But because this is your notes, and I don't want you to get confused when you look back at it, I'm going to rewrite this. I'm going to say 2 minus negative 3. You're not always going to have parentheses here, so I'm showing you a couple examples without it. Minus minus becomes plus plus. 2 plus 3 is going to equal 5. This answer here is 5.
Okay,
That one's right? Okay. The next one. The next one is not going to be minus minus becomes plus plus. The next one's going to equal, anybody think they got this one? All right, Jalen, what'd you get? Well, I'm going to rewrite it for you. I'm going to tell you if you still think it's negative 3. Negative 6, what if I added the opposite? Negative 6 plus negative 3, what would that equal? Negative 9. So this would be like the temperature is negative 6 and it's dropping 3. Negative 6, dropping 3, you're going to negative 9. All right, let's scroll down a little bit. All right. Next one. I have negative 6 minus negative 2. Minus minus becomes plus plus right here. That one in the front stays negative. So you really treat this like negative 6 plus 2. Negative 6 plus 2 equals, look at the number line, negative 6, and you're going plus 2. If it was negative 6 minus 2, it would be negative 8, but I'm going plus 2. It's going to be negative 4, yeah. See what I mean? This stuff is not easy to get rid of. I'm going to skip the next example, and I'm going to go straight to the last one. I want to know which of these, write down all of them, A, B, C, D, E, F, which of these has a value of negative 12? There's going to be more than one. Should probably be able to pick one of them out. There's actually a few that have a value of negative 12. Does somebody think they see one? All right, Jalen, which one do you see?
E.
E?
Wait.
B is in boy. B is going to equal negative 12. You're right. And if you wanted to treat this like adding the opposite, it would be negative 2 plus negative 10. If you think about it that way, you would get negative 12 that way. Is there any other one that equals negative 12? Yes. D is in dog. You're right, because minus minus becomes plus plus. Negative 14 plus 2 is going to equal negative 12.
Is it? F.
F would also equal negative 12. You almost said E earlier, and then you stopped. What's negative 6 plus 6 going to get you to? 0. So this one is not going to equal. That's going to equal 0.
8 plus. Oh wait. No.
Yeah. A. 4 plus negative 16 would equal negative 12. Because you're starting at positive 4, and when you add negative 16, you're going to the left, you end up at negative 12.
That's all.
That's all. Because what's C equal?
12.
Positive 12. Yep, so E doesn't equal it, and C don't equal it.
We'd have to use E and C.
And we are at the point where we got about 25 minutes. So take pictures of your notes, put them in that checkpoint, submit it,